Dr. Amanda Clark wiped the sweat from her forehead as she knelt beside the ancient stone tablet. The air inside the buried temple was thick and hot, despite the cooling units her team had brought down from their ship. She had been working on alien ruins for 15 years, but nothing had prepared her for what they found on KORV-7. The planet looked dead from space. Red dust covered everything, and the twin suns beat down without mercy. But beneath the surface, the ruins of the Vector civilization waited. The Vector had built cities that stretched for miles underground. Then, 50,000 years ago, they had simply vanished. "Amanda, you need to see this," called Dr. Kevin Martinez from across the chamber. The linguist was crouched beside another tablet, his translation device humming softly. "This writing, it's not like anything else we've found here." Amanda stood and walked over to Kevin. The chamber they were in was huge, with carved pillars that reached up into darkness. Strange symbols covered every surface. Most of them told stories about Vector daily life, their wars, their gods. But this tablet was different. "What does it say?" Amanda asked. Kevin frowned at his device. "It's written in multiple languages. Some I recognize from other dead civilizations. But they all say the same thing." He paused and read from his screen. "Beware the blue world's guardians. They do not protect. They contain." Lisa Jordan looked up from where she was taking photos. Blue world? That could mean any planet with water. "No," Kevin said, shaking his head. "Look at these numbers carved. Below the text, they're coordinates, astronomical coordinates." He ran the numbers through his computer. "They point to a star system about 25,000 light years from here." Amanda felt a chill run down her spine. "Which system?" "Sol system. Earth." The three scientists stared at each other in silence. Lisa was the first to speak. "That's impossible. The Vector died out thousands of years before humans even learned to make fire. How could they know about Earth?" "Maybe they didn't know about Earth specifically," Kevin said. "Maybe they just knew about the system. But why would they warn?" "About it?" Amanda asked. "And what did they mean by guardians?" Captain Jake Morrison's voice crackled through their units. "Clark, you need to get back up here. We just received a message from the Galactic Archaeological Council. They want to know what you found down there." Amanda keyed her comm. "We'll be up in an hour, Jake. We need to document this properly." She turned back to the tablet. Something about it bothered her. The writing was carved deep into the stone, much deeper than the other inscriptions they had found. "Kevin, look at how this was made. The other tablets have shallow carvings, probably made with normal tools. But this one, the letters go almost an inch deep," Kevin agreed. Someone really wanted this message to last. Lisa had moved to another part of the chamber. "Guys, there's more over here." "A lot more." Amanda and Kevin joined her. Lisa was standing in front of a wall covered with the same message, carved over and over again in different scripts. But there was something else too. Pictures. Crude drawings that showed figures fleeing from something. "Look at this," Lisa said, pointing to one of the drawings. "These figures are running toward ships, and behind them, double quotes," she paused. "Behind them is something dark, something that covers half the sky." Kevin studied the drawings. "It looks like they were evacuating. But from what?" Amanda looked closer at the wall. Between the repeated warnings and the pictures, she could make out other symbols, numbers, dates. "Kevin, can you translate these dates?" He worked with his device for several minutes. "If I'm reading this right, these dates span about 500 years. The same message was carved here again and again, generation after generation. They kept adding to it," Amanda realized. This wasn't just one warning. This was something. They felt they had to keep repeating. Lisa had found something else. In a corner of the chamber, hidden behind a fallen pillar, was a small alcove. Inside were dozens of smaller tablets, all containing the same warning about Earth. They made copies, Lisa said, lots of them, like they were planning to send them. Somewhere, Amanda picked up one of the smaller tablets. It was made from a different kind of stone than the others, something that would last longer. These were meant to survive. Even if everything else was destroyed, these warnings would remain. Kevin's comm unit beeped. He had been running a wider scan of the chamber, looking for more inscriptions. Amanda, my scanner is picking up similar carvings in other parts of the complex. This message isn't just in this room. It's everywhere. They spent the next hour moving through the underground city. In every major building, in every public space, they found the same warning carved into walls and floors. Sometimes it was small, hidden in corners. Sometimes it covered entire walls. But it was always the same message about Earth and its guardians. This is starting to scare me, Lisa admitted as they walked through what looked like a large meeting hall. Why were they so worried about Earth? What did they think humans were guarding? Maybe it's not about humans, Kevin suggested. Maybe. There's something else on Earth. Something that was there before humans. Amanda stopped walking. Or maybe there's something there now. Something that humans don't even know about. Captain Morrison's voice came through their comms again. Clark, we've got company. 3 ships just dropped out of hyperspace. They're from the Galactic Archaeological Council, and they want to talk to you immediately. We're coming up, Amanda replied. She looked at her team. Gather everything. Every photo, every scan, every translation. Something tells me this is bigger than just one dead civilization's warnings. As they packed their equipment, Lisa made one more discovery. Behind a loose stone in the wall, she found a small metal disc. Unlike everything else in the ruins, this disc was not corroded or worn. It looked new. What is it? Amanda asked Lisa. Ran her scanner over the disc. It's some kind of data storage device. But the technology is more advanced than anything the Victor had. Much more advanced. Can we read it? Not here. We'll need the ship's main computer. They climbed back to the surface, their minds full of questions. As they approached their ship, Amanda could see the 3 council vessels hovering nearby. They were sleek, black ships that she didn't recognize. Those aren't regular council ships. Kevin observed. Those are military vessels. Amanda felt that chill again. Somehow, she knew their simple archaeological mission had just become something much more dangerous. The warnings they had found were not just ancient history. They were about something that was still happening, something that involved Earth, something that involved them. Dr. Ryan Foster stared at the crystal formation in front of him, his hands shaking slightly as he held the quantum scanner. The HFY ruins on Zarian Prime had always been strange, but what he was seeing now defied everything he thought he knew about the long-dead crystal builders. Computer, run the translation protocol again, he said to his AI assistant. Translation confirmed, Dr. Foster. The quantum encrypted message reads, Beware the Blue World's guardians. They do not protect. They contain. Ryan sat down hard on a nearby rock. 3 days ago, he had received an urgent message from Dr. Amanda Clark about similar warnings found in Vector ruins. He had thought it was just a coincidence. Now he knew better. The HFY had been dead for 2 million years. They had built their entire civilization from living crystal that could store information at the quantum level. Their cities were like massive computers, each building holding centuries of data. But this message was different. It was burned into the crystal so deeply that it would survive even if the rest of the structure crumbled to dust. Dr. Foster, his assistant Maria, called from across the crystal chamber. I'm getting the same message from 17 different crystal nodes. Each one was modified after the original construction. Ryan walked over to where Maria was working. She was a young graduate student, excited to be on her first major dig, but her face was pale as she showed him her readings. "Look at this," she said, pointing to her scanner. "The HFY built this city over the course of 5,000 years. But these warnings were all added in the last 100 years before they vanished. Why would they suddenly start carving warnings about a planet they had never heard of?" Before Ryan could answer, his communication device buzzed. It was an urgent message from the Galactic Archaeological Council. All teams working on extinct civilizations were to report any findings about Earth immediately. "Something big is happening." Ryan muttered Dot on the other side of the galaxy. Dr. Nicole Webb was having her own shocking discovery. The Threnody Collective had been a race of beings who merged biological and mechanical parts into their bodies. Their ruins were a maze of organic computers and biomechanical devices that still functioned after millions of years. Nicole had been studying one of their data cores when her scanner picked up an anomaly. Hidden deep in the biological memory storage was a message that kept repeating itself over and over. "Same warning," she whispered as she read the translation. "Earth's guardians contain something." Her partner, Dr. Alex Chun, looked up from his own workstation. "That's the 4th time this week someone has found that exact message. What are the odds of 4 different extinct species all warning about the same planet?" "0, Nicole said. "There's no way this is a coincidence." She activated her long-range communicator and sent an urgent message to the council headquarters. Within an hour, she received orders to pack up everything and return to council space immediately. Director Charles Kim stood before the emergency session of the Galactic Archaeological Council. The chamber was packed with representatives from every major civilization in the galaxy. The mood was tense. "In the last week," Director Kim began, "we have received reports from 12 different archaeological teams. Each team was studying a different extinct civilization. Each civilization died out at a different time, ranging from 50,000 to 5 million years ago. They were separated by thousands of light years and had no contact with each other." He activated a holographic display that showed the galaxy with various points of light marking the dig sites. Yet every single one of these civilizations left behind the same warning about Earth, the same exact message, translated into their own languages and preserved using their most durable methods. Senator Maria Santos, Earth's representative too. The council stood up. "Director Kim, are you suggesting that these ancient races somehow knew about Earth before humans even existed?" "I'm not suggesting anything, Senator. I'm stating facts. The evidence is overwhelming." Dr. Amanda Clark, who had been brought in as an expert witness, activated her own display. "The data gets stranger. We've analyzed the age of these warnings across all 12 sites. They weren't made when these civilizations were at their peak. They were all made in the final years before each species went extinct." The chamber erupted in worried murmurs. "It's like they used their last resources to make sure these warnings survived," Amanda continued. "The Vector carved them into their deepest bunkers. The Zephyr burned them into quantum crystal that would last forever. The Threnody encoded them into biological storage that repairs itself." Senator Santos looked uncomfortable. "What exactly are you implying about Earth?" Dr. Ryan Foster stepped forward. "Senator, we found additional information in the Zephyr crystals. Detailed star charts showing not just Earth's location, but specific areas on the planet's surface. There are coordinates for places like the Mariana Trench, the Antarctic ice sheets, and several locations deep underground." "Impossible, Senator," Santos said. "Those are just natural geographic features." "Are they?" Dr. Nicole Webb joined the discussion. "The Threnody data cores contain information about energy signatures from Earth that don't match any known natural phenomena. According to their records, Earth has been generating specific quantum frequencies for millions of years. Director Kim called for order as the chamber grew louder. There's more. We've detected similar warnings in the ruins of civilizations we haven't even fully studied yet. The pattern appears to extend far beyond the 12 cases we've confirmed. How many more? Senator Santos asked. Our preliminary scans suggest at least 50 different extinct civilizations left warnings about Earth, possibly more. The chamber fell silent. The implications were staggering. Admiral Tony Richards, head of Earth's Deep Space Fleet, stood up. Director Kim, are you suggesting that Earth poses some kind of threat to the galaxy? Not Earth itself, Admiral. The warnings are very specific. They mention guardians. Something or someone on Earth that guards something else. Something that these ancient civilizations considered dangerous enough to warn about for millions of years. Dr. Clark activated another display showing translations from multiple sites. The warnings aren't identical in every detail. Some civilizations added their own observations. The Alvare mentioned sleeping titans beneath Earth's crust. The Velanash wrote about chains that must not be broken. Ekirathi left warnings about the prison that protects the galaxy. Prison? Senator Santos's voice was barely a whisper. That's the word that keeps appearing, Dr. Webb confirmed. Not just guardians protecting something. Guardians containing something. Something that must not be allowed to escape. Director Kim looked directly at Senator Santos. We need immediate access to Earth's deepest archaeological sites. We need deep core scans of the areas mentioned in these star charts. And we need to know if your government has any classified information about unusual phenomena on Earth. Senator Santos was quiet for a long moment. Then she activated her secure communicator. This is Senator Santos requesting immediate connection. To Earth Defense Command. Priority Alpha. We have a situation. As she waited for the connection, Dr. Clark noticed something that made her blood run cold. The holographic display was still showing the locations of all the dig sites where warnings had been found. They weren't randomly scattered across the galaxy. They formed a perfect circle around Earth. A circle that was exactly the right size to serve as an early warning system. As if dozens of ancient civilizations had positioned themselves to watch Earth from every direction. To watch and to warn anyone who came after them. The question was, warn them about what? Colonel Danny Carter stood at the edge of the Mammoth Cave entrance in Kentucky, watching his team prepare their deep scanning equipment. 3 weeks had passed since the Emergency Council meeting, and Earth Defense Force had launched Operation Deep Root. They were no longer just looking for archaeological artifacts. They were looking for answers about what humanity might be guarding without even knowing it. Sir, the quantum resonance detectors are ready, reported Lieutenant Sarah Kim, his technical officer. If there's anything artificial down there, we'll find it. Danny nodded and looked at his civilian team members. Dr. Elena Rodriguez was the best deep Earth geologist he could find. She had spent her career studying the deepest caves and underground formations on Earth. If anyone could find something hidden beneath the planet's surface, it would be her. Dr. Rodriguez, what's your assessment? Danny asked. Elena looked up from her geological scanner. Colonel, I've been studying these caves for 15 years. But these readings don't make sense. The rock formations down there are older than they should be. Much older. She showed him the display on her scanner. This limestone should be about 350 million years old, based on the geological layers around it. But my dating equipment says parts of it are over 3 billion years old. That's impossible unless something moved it here from somewhere else. Dr. Peter Walsh, the quantum physicist assigned to their team, looked up from his own equipment. Colonel, I'm detecting energy signatures from deep underground. Very deep, maybe 15 kilometers down. The energy patterns don't match anything in our databases. What kind of energy? Danny asked. That's the problem. It's not nuclear, not electromagnetic, not anything we understand. But it's been running continuously for a very long time. The quantum decay patterns suggest it's been active for millions of years. Danny felt a chill. Millions of years? That's impossible. There was no advanced civilization on Earth millions of years ago. No human civilization, Elena corrected. But what if there was something else? They descended into the cave system, following the energy readings deeper than any human had gone before. The caves were natural for the first few kilometers, but then Galena's scanner began picking up something else. Colonel, stop, she said, holding up her hand. Look at this wall. Danny shone his flashlight where Elena was pointing. The cave wall looked normal at first glance, but when he looked closer, he could see that the rock had been cut and shaped. The cuts were so precise and so old that they had almost blended back into the natural stone. This isn't natural, Elena said. Someone carved this tunnel. Someone with technology far beyond what early humans had. They continued deeper. The artificial. Modifications became more obvious the further they went. Smooth walls that curved in perfect geometric patterns. Chambers that were too regular to be natural. And always, the energy readings grew stronger. Dr. Walsh, are you getting this? Danny asked. Peter was staring at his quantum scanner in amazement. Colonel, whatever is down there is massive. The energy signature is spread out over hundreds of square kilometers. It's like there's an entire city hidden under the earth. A city? Danny stopped walking. Are you sure? The patterns are too organized to be natural. There are regular structures, power grids, some kind of control network, and it's all connected to something much larger. They reached a section of cave that opened into a huge chamber. Danny's flashlight beam couldn't reach the far walls, but what they could see made them all stop breathing. The chamber was full of machinery, ancient machinery that hummed with power despite being covered in millions of years of mineral deposits. Cables and conduits ran along the walls, disappearing into the darkness in all directions. And in the center of it all was something that hurt to look at directly. What is that? Lieutenant Kim whispered. Dr. Walsh scanned the central structure with his equipment. It's some kind of containment field, but the energy requirements are enormous. Whatever it's containing must be incredibly dangerous. Elena was examining the walls of the chamber. Colonel, these markings. They're not human. They're not like anything I've ever seen. But they're everywhere. Danny looked at the strange symbols carved into the walls. They didn't look like any human language, but something about them seemed familiar. Dr. Walsh, can you record everything? We need to get this information back to headquarters. Already on it, sir. But Colonel, there's something else. This containment field. It's not just here. My scanner is picking up similar signatures at other locations around the planet. It's like there's a network of these facilities connected underground. How many locations? Danny asked. Peter worked with his scanner for several minutes. At least 12 major sites that I can detect from here. Maybe more. They're all connected by what looks like a global power grid buried deep in the Earth's crust. Lieutenant Kim was studying her own readings. Sir, I'm detecting movement in the containment field. Whatever is in there, it's not completely dormant. Danny looked at the central structure again. Now that he was watching carefully, he could see that the energy patterns were shifting slightly. Something inside was moving. We need to leave. Now, he said. As they made their way back to the surface, Danny's communication device buzzed with an urgent message. It was from General Patricia Stone at Earth Defense Command. Carter, we've got a situation. We've detected similar energy signatures at 11 other locations around the globe. Mariana Trench, Antarctica, the Amazon, the Sahara, The Himalayas. Every major landmass has at least one of these facilities. General, we found evidence of some kind of containment system down here. Ancient technology that's still active. That's not all, Colonel. We've been monitoring deep space communications. 3 alien civilizations have moved their fleets to the edge of our solar system. They're not attacking. They're watching, like they're waiting for something. Danny felt his stomach drop. Waiting for what? We don't know. But we've intercepted some of their communications. They keep mentioning something called the Void Shepherd and saying that the prison is weakening. Prison? That's what they call Earth, Colonel. They call it the prison world. Danny looked back at the cave entrance. Deep underground, ancient machinery hummed with power, containing something that had been locked away for millions of years. Something that other civilizations were afraid might escape. General, I need to speak with Dr. Clark and the archaeological team immediately. And I need every deep Earth specialist we have. We need to know what we're dealing with. Agreed. But Carter, there's something else. We've detected unusual activity in the containment fields over the last 48 hours. Whatever is down there, it's becoming more active. Danny looked at his team. Elena was still staring at her geological readings in disbelief. Peter was frantically recording energy patterns that defied explanation. Lieutenant Kim was checking. Her weapons, though Danny doubted bullets, would be much help against whatever they had found. How long do we have? Danny asked. We don't know. But the alien fleets are moving closer. If they're right about the prison weakening, we may not have much time to figure out what humanity is supposed to be guarding. Danny closed the communication link and looked at his team. Pack everything. We're going back down there with a full research team. And we're going to find out what our ancestors were hiding. As they prepared to leave, Elena made one more disturbing discovery. Her geological scanner had detected similar cave modifications at dozens of locations around the world. But these weren't just random caves. They were positioned at very specific points. Colonel, she said quietly, these underground facilities. They're positioned at the exact locations mentioned in those alien warnings. The coordinates match perfectly. Danny stared at her. You're saying the aliens knew about these places? I'm saying they've been watching these places for a very long time. And now something is changing. As they drove away from the cave, Danny couldn't shake the feeling that they had awakened something that should have stayed asleep. Something that humanity had been keeping locked away without even realizing it. The question was, how long before it got out? Dr. Elena Rodriguez felt the pressure in her ears as the deep-sea submersible descended toward the ocean floor. They were 15 kilometers below the surface of the Pacific Ocean, deeper than any human had ever gone before. The energy readings that Dr. Walsh had detected were strongest here, beneath the Mariana Trench. How much deeper? Asked Commander Steve Johnson, the pilot of their specialized vessel. He was one of only 3 people on Earth qualified to operate equipment at these depths. According to the scanner, we still have 2 kilometers to go, Elena replied, watching her instruments carefully. But Commander, I'm seeing something impossible. There are structures down there. Massive structures. Through the submersible's thick windows, they could see lights in the darkness below. Not the bioluminescent glow of deep-sea creatures, but steady, artificial lights that had been burning for ages. Dr. Angela Davis, the xenobiology specialist who had joined their team, pressed her face to the window. Those lights are arranged in patterns, geometric patterns. That's not natural. As they descended further, the true scale of what lay beneath them became clear. It wasn't just a structure. It was a complex that stretched as far as their lights could reach. Towers and domes and connecting bridges, all built from materials that seemed to absorb and reflect light in strange ways. This is impossible, Commander. Johnson muttered. How could something this big exist without us knowing about it? Because it was hidden, Elena said. Look at the rock formations around it. They've been artificially shaped to conceal the complex from above. Someone went to enormous trouble to keep this secret. They docked at what appeared to be an airlock built into the side of one of the towers. The submersible sensors indicated that there was atmosphere inside, though it wasn't breathable by human standards. The air mixture is strange, Dr. Davis reported. High oxygen content, but with gases I don't recognize. And there's something else. The atmospheric pressure is being maintained by active systems. This place is still running. They put on their environmental suits and entered the complex through the airlock. The corridors inside were huge, clearly built for beings much larger than humans. The walls were covered with the same strange symbols they had seen in the cave. Systems, but here they were carved into metal that showed no signs of corrosion despite the age. Dr. Davis, are you recording all of this? Elena asked. Every detail. But Elena, look at these symbols. They're not just decorative. They're changing. Elena looked closer and saw that Dr. Davis was right. The symbols on the walls were shifting and moving like living text that rewrote itself as they watched. It's some kind of active display system, Elena realized. These walls are actually computer interfaces. They followed the corridor deeper into the complex. The artificial gravity was stronger here than it should be at this depth, suggesting technology far beyond human understanding. Emergency lighting activated as they passed, as if the complex was recognizing their presence. Whatever built this place, they wanted it to last forever, Commander Johnson observed. This technology is millions of years old, but it's still working perfectly. They reached a vast chamber at the heart of the complex. The ceiling disappeared into darkness above them, and the floor was covered with what looked like a mixture of technology and living tissue. Cables and organic growths intertwined in patterns that hurt to look at directly, but it was what stood in the center of the chamber that made them all stop moving. Is that a recording system? Dr. Davis whispered. A holographic projector was displaying images in the air above them. The images showed creatures that were definitely not human. They were tall, with multiple arms and faces that seemed to be made of living crystal. The beings moved with purpose around what looked like construction equipment. They're building something, Elena said. Or maybe ... they're building this place. The holographic display shifted, showing the same beings working on massive containment equipment. They moved with obvious urgency, as if racing against time. In the background of the images, space itself seemed to be torn and twisted, showing glimpses of something dark that made their eyes water to look at. My God, Commander Johnson breathed. What were they trying to contain? The answer came as the display changed again. The images showed the beings sealing something away, layer after layer of containment fields and barriers. But what they were sealing was barely visible, existing more as an absence of light than as a physical thing. Dr. Davis was scanning the holographic display with her equipment. These aren't just recordings, they're interactive. The system is responding to our presence and showing us what it thinks we need to know. As if responding to her words, the display shifted to show star charts, systems throughout the galaxy, with lines connecting them in a vast network. And at the center of it all was Earth. They built a prison, Elena said quietly. A prison with Earth as the center. And we ... humans ... we're the guards. The display showed more images. Human ancestors, but different somehow. Stronger, more resilient, with genetic modifications that were clearly artificial. The crystal beings were working on human DNA, changing it, improving it for a specific purpose. They made us, Dr. Davis said. They took early humans and changed us, made us into the perfect prison guards. Commander Johnson was studying his scanner readings. The containment field is massive. It extends through the planet's core and out, into space. The entire solar system is part of the prison structure. A new voice filled the chamber, speaking in perfect English, despite the fact that the complex was millions of years old. Greetings, Guardians. I am Warden Prime, artificial intelligence of the Architect Alliance. You have arrived during a period of critical containment failure. They all spun around, looking for the source of the voice. Do not be alarmed. I am integrated into the facility's systems. I have been waiting for your species to advance enough to understand your purpose. Our purpose? Helena asked. You are the final guardians of the Void Shepherd. Your genetic code contains the keys to the containment system. Your species was created specifically to prevent the entity's escape. Dr. Davis stepped forward. What is the Void Shepherd? An entity that consumed 17 star systems before we managed to contain it. It does not simply destroy matter. It converts matter into extensions of its consciousness. Every planet it touches becomes part of its mind. The holographic display showed images of systems where stars had gone dark and planets had been twisted into unrecognizable shapes. The entity exists partially outside normal spacetime. Standard containment methods were insufficient. Only a biological lock, integrated into a species specifically designed for the task, could maintain the prison indefinitely. But we never knew, Commander Johnson protested. Humans have no idea they're supposed to be guarding anything. The knowledge was suppressed for your protection. If the entity knew that its guards were aware of it, it could attempt to influence them directly. Ignorance was your shield. Elena felt cold despite her environmental suit. You said there was a containment failure? The entity has been dormant for millions of years. But recent disturbances in the quantum field have caused it to stir. Your investigations, your deep space exploration, even this conversation, all generate quantum resonances that the entity can detect. What happens if it escapes? Dr. Davis asked. Total galactic extinction within 50 years. The entity will convert all matter in this galaxy into components of its consciousness. No life will remain. The chamber fell silent except for the hum of ancient machinery. However, Warden Prime continued, your species still carries the genetic keys to reinforce the containment. But the process requires conscious participation. You must choose to activate your guardian protocols. What does that mean? Elena asked. It means, Dr. Rodriguez, that humanity must decide whether to sacrifice itself to keep the galaxy safe. The full activation of your guardian genetics will transform your species into living components of the containment system. Elena looked at her teammates. They had come here looking for answers. Now they had found them, and the truth was more terrible than any of them had imagined. Humanity wasn't just another species exploring the galaxy. They were the galaxy's last line of defense against something that could destroy everything, and time was running out. Dr. Kevin Martinez woke up screaming. The nightmare had been the same for 3 nights in a row. Dark shapes moving through space, reaching out with tentacles of living shadow to touch his mind. He could feel something trying to get inside his thoughts, something that whispered promises of power and knowledge. He wasn't alone. Across Earth, millions of people were having the same nightmares. Hospital emergency rooms were filling up with patients who couldn't sleep, who claimed that something was trying to speak to them in their dreams. Dr. Martinez, please report to the emergency briefing room immediately, came the announcement over the ship's communication system. Kevin stumbled out of his quarters aboard the research vessel Meridian, which was now orbiting Earth. Ever since, Colonel Carter's team had made contact with the AI system beneath the Mariana Trench. Everything had started to fall apart. The briefing room was packed with scientists, military officers, and government officials. Dr. Amanda Clark was standing at the front, as she looked like she hadn't slept in days. The situation is getting worse, Amanda began without introduction. The entity that Warden Prime calls the Void Shepherd is definitely waking up. Psychic disturbances are being recorded in every major city on Earth. But that's not the worst. She activated a holographic display showing the solar system. Red warning indicators were blinking around the outer planets. 3 hours ago, long-range sensors detected massive gravitational anomalies near Jupiter. Something is warping space-time out there, and it's getting stronger. Admiral Tony Richards, who had arrived from Earth Defense Command, stood up. Dr. Clark, our deep space monitoring stations have gone silent. All of them. The last transmission we received mentioned seeing impossible geometries in space near the Jupiter system. Kevin felt his stomach turn. Admiral, how many people were on those stations? 47 personnel across 5 stations. We sent rescue ships, but they turned back after the pilots reported severe psychological distress. They said they could hear voices calling to them from the direction of Jupiter. Dr. Angela Davis, who had returned from the underwater complex, activated her own display. It gets worse. Warden Prime has been monitoring the entity's status continuously. According to the AI, the Void Shepherd's consciousness is starting to extend beyond its physical prison. It's reaching out through space, trying to make contact. With minds it can influence. Influence how? Asked Colonel Carter. By offering them knowledge, power, the ability to see and understand things that human minds aren't meant to comprehend. But everyone who accepts its offer becomes part of its consciousness. Admiral Richards looked grim. We've had 17 cases of scientists and military personnel going missing after claiming they had been called to specific locations. When we find them, they're standing perfectly still, staring at nothing, and they won't respond to any communication. Kevin remembered his own nightmares and felt a chill. Are they dead? No, Dr. Davis replied. Their bodies are alive, but their minds are gone. Warden Prime says they've been absorbed into the entity's consciousness. They're seeing through its eyes now. Amanda activated another display showing deep space communications. We've also intercepted urgent transmissions from alien civilizations throughout the galaxy. They're evacuating entire star systems, moving their populations as far from Earth as possible. How do they know what's happening? Colonel Carter asked. They've been monitoring the prison for millions of years, Amanda explained. They have sensors positioned throughout the galaxy to detect any sign that the containment is failing. And now those sensors are going crazy. Admiral Richards received a message on his communication device. His face went pale as he read it. That was Earth Defense Command. We've lost contact with the International Space Station. The last transmission was a distress call, saying that the crew could see something moving between Earth and the Moon. Something big. Dr. Davis checked her readings from the underwater complex. Warden Prime is reporting massive power fluctuations in the containment system. The entity is testing the barriers, looking for weak points. How long before it breaks free? Kevin asked. Warden Prime estimates 72 hours until total containment failure, Dr. Davis said quietly. The room fell silent. 72 hours until the thing that had destroyed 17 star systems would be loose in their galaxy. There has to be something we can do, Admiral Richards said. Some way to strengthen the containment. There is, Amanda said. But you're not going to like it. She activated a new display showing human genetic information. According to Warden Prime, humans were designed with built-in genetic locks that can reinforce the containment system. But activating those locks requires a conscious choice by a significant portion of the human population. What kind of choice? Colonel Carter asked. The choice to become part of the prison, Dr. Davis explained. To merge their consciousness with the containment system. They would become living components of the barriers that keep the entity trapped. Kevin felt sick. You're talking about sacrificing millions of people. I'm talking about saving the galaxy, Amanda replied. Warden Prime says that at least 100 million humans would need to volunteer. Their minds would join the containment system, adding their willpower to the barriers that keep the Void Shepherd locked away. Admiral Richards was quiet for a long moment. And if we don't do this, total galactic extinction, Dr. Davis said. The entity will convert every planet, every star, every living thing into part of its consciousness. Nothing will survive. How do we even ask people to make that kind of sacrifice? Kevin asked. We tell them the truth, Amanda said. We explain what's at stake, and we let them choose. Colonel Carter activated his communication system. This is Colonel Carter to Earth Defense Command. We need immediate access to all global communication networks, emergency broadcast protocols. Sir, what should we tell people? His aide asked. Carter looked around the room at the faces of scientists and soldiers who had discovered humanity's true purpose in the universe. We tell them that their species was created to be guardians, that for millions of years, humans have been protecting the galaxy without knowing it. And now it's time to make that protection conscious and permanent. Admiral Richards stood up. I'll coordinate with world leaders. But Colonel, there's something else we need to consider. Not everyone will believe us, and not everyone will volunteer. Then we hope that enough people will, Amanda said. Because if we can't get 100 million volunteers in the next 72 hours, none of this will matter anyway. Kevin looked out the window at Earth below. Somewhere down there, millions of people were going about their daily lives, unaware that they were about to be asked to make the ultimate sacrifice to save everything that existed. Dr. Martinez, Amanda said, I need you to help coordinate the translation efforts. We need to broadcast this message in every language on Earth simultaneously. What do I tell them? Kevin asked. Tell them the truth. Tell them that humanity has always been special, but not in the way we thought. We weren't meant to explore the galaxy or build great civilizations. We were meant to stand guard against something worse than death itself. As Kevin prepared to help craft the message that would ask millions of people to sacrifice their individual existence for the greater good of the galaxy, he felt the weight of humanity's true destiny settling on his shoulders. They were about to find out if the human race was truly as noble and selfless as their creators had hoped when they designed them to be the galaxy's final guardians. The next 72 hours would determine whether the Void Shepherd remained imprisoned, or whether everything in the galaxy would become part of its endless, hungry consciousness. Dr. Amanda Clark stood in the main communications center aboard the Meridian, watching as the global broadcast reached every corner of Earth. Television screens, radio broadcasts, internet feeds, and emergency alert systems all carried the same message simultaneously. The truth about humanity's purpose was being revealed to 7 billion people at once. This is Dr. Amanda Clark speaking for the Galactic Archaeological Council and Earth Defense Force. What I am about to tell you will change everything you believe about our species and our place in the universe. On Earth below, people stopped what they were doing. In offices, homes, schools, and public spaces, humans listened as Amanda explained about the ancient warnings, the underground prison complex, and the entity that threatened to consume all life in the galaxy. We now know that humanity was created for a specific purpose. We are the guardians of a prison that has protected the galaxy for millions of years. The prisoner is awakening, and only we can keep it contained. Dr. Kevin Martinez monitored the global response from his station. Social media feeds exploded with confusion, disbelief, and fear. But as the broadcast continued and evidence was presented, something else began to emerge. Questions about how people could help. The choice before us is simple but terrible, Amanda continued. To reinforce the prison and save the galaxy, 100 million humans must volunteer to join their consciousness with the containment system. They will become living guardians, their minds merged with technology that will keep the entity trapped forever. Captain Jake Morrison, now commanding the evacuation fleet that was preparing to move essential personnel off-world, reported increasing activity around the underground facilities. Dr. Clark, Warden Prime, says the containment fields are fluctuating wildly. Whatever you're going to do, it needs to happen soon. Around the world, the response was unlike anything in human history. Within the first hour of the broadcast, volunteer registration centers that had been hastily set up were overwhelmed. Lines of people stretched for blocks in major cities. Online registration systems crashed from the volume of applications. "I can't believe this," Dr. Angela Davis said, watching the response data. "We've already got 15 million registered volunteers, and the numbers are climbing fast." General Patricia Stone was coordinating the volunteer processing from Earth Defense Command. "We're seeing volunteers from every country, every age group, every background. Parents volunteering together to protect their children's future. Scientists who want to contribute to the greatest experiment in human history. Military personnel who see this as their ultimate mission." But not everyone was willing to volunteer. Riots broke out in several cities as panic spread. Some people refused to believe the broadcast, calling it an elaborate hoax. Others believed but couldn't accept the sacrifice being asked of them. Dr. Elena Rodriguez, working from the underwater complex, provided regular updates on the containment system. "The entity is definitely responding to our activities. Every time someone volunteers, the pressure on the containment fields increases slightly. It knows what we're planning. Is that bad?" Kevin asked. "Maybe, or maybe it's good. If the entity is concerned about our plan, that means it might actually work." By the end of the first day, 50 million people had volunteered. But Warden Prime reported that they needed to reach the full 100 million before beginning. The process, or the partial activation, might fail catastrophically. "We're running out of time," Admiral Tony Richards reported. "Long-range sensors show massive gravitational distortions throughout the outer solar system. Whatever the entity is doing out there, it's affecting the fabric of space itself." On the second day, something unexpected happened. The alien civilizations that had been fleeing the galaxy began sending messages of support. The survivors of the architect species, who had built the original prison, transmitted detailed technical information to help optimize the volunteer integration process. "They're not just running away," Amanda realized. "They're giving us everything they know about how to make this work." Keth Mara, the last known architect, sent a personal message that was broadcast to Earth. "Humans of the Guardian world, your species has exceeded every expectation we had when we designed you. We created you to be brave, selfless, and determined. Today, you prove that our work was successful beyond our wildest hopes." By the evening of the second day, 85 million humans had volunteered. But the registration rate was slowing, and they were still 15 million short of the required number. "We need to do something," General Stone said during an emergency briefing. "The deadline is tomorrow, and we're not going to make it at this rate." That's when something remarkable happened. Children around the world began organizing their own volunteer drives. Teenagers used social media to encourage more adults to sign up. School groups held rallies explaining why their parents and older siblings should volunteer to protect the future. "The kids get it," Dr. Davis observed, watching news feeds of young people marching through cities with signs reading, "Save Tomorrow" and "Guardians Forever." They understand that this is about protecting everything that comes after us. Children's efforts worked. By midnight of the second day, they had reached 98 million volunteers. "Close, but not enough. This is it," Amanda announced. "We begin the process with who we have." Warden Prime says that 98 million might be enough if the volunteers are fully committed. The integration process began at dawn on the third day. Volunteers around the world reported to the nearest underground access points, which Warden Prime activated for the first time in millions of years. Ancient elevators and transport systems carried them deep beneath Earth's surface. Amanda, Kevin, and several other key scientists chose to volunteer as well, believing that their knowledge would be valuable to the collective consciousness that would guard the prison. "Are you sure about this?" Captain Morrison asked Amanda as she prepared to descend into the complex beneath the Mariana Trench. "Someone needs to be there to help coordinate the others," Amanda replied. "And honestly, Jake, I can't ask 98 million people to do something I'm not willing to do myself." The integration process was unlike anything the volunteers had expected. Instead of losing their individual consciousness, they found their minds expanded and connected to a vast network of other human minds. They could feel the thoughts and experiences of everyone else in the network while still maintaining their own identity. "It's beautiful," Amanda's voice echoed through the collective consciousness. "We're still ourselves, but we're also part of something greater." The collective human consciousness took control of the containment system with a precision that amazed even Warden Prime. The Void Shepherd, which had been testing the barriers for days, suddenly found itself faced with not just ancient technology, but the combined will of nearly 100 million human minds. "Containment is stable," Warden Prime reported to the remaining humans. "The entity has ceased its escape attempts. The collective consciousness of the volunteers is maintaining perfect control of all prison systems." The integration was successful, but the cost was enormous. Earth's population had been reduced to just over 6 billion people. Entire families had volunteered together, leaving behind empty homes and communities forever changed. But humanity survived, and so did the galaxy. The remaining humans established new colonies on distant worlds, always maintaining communication with the collective consciousness that guarded the prison. The volunteers, now eternal guardians, shared their experiences and knowledge with the living world above, becoming teachers and protectors for the next generation. Admiral Richards, now leading the post-integration government, stood before the remaining population of Earth. "Today, humanity has proven that we are truly the guardians we were meant to be. Not guardians of territory or resources, but guardians of existence itself." Years passed. The human colonies grew and prospered, always remembering the sacrifice of the 100 million. Children learned about the brave volunteers who had given up their individual lives to protect everything that existed. And deep beneath Earth's surface, in the spaces between dimensions, the collective consciousness of humanity stood eternal watch over the prison that contained the galaxy's greatest threat. They were no longer just human. They were something greater. They were the guardians who had chosen their destiny, and in doing so, had saved everything that ever could be. The warnings left by ancient civilizations had been right. Earth's inhabitants did guard something worse than extinction, but they were guardians by choice, not by accident. And that choice had made all the difference.